She was just another face in the mess hall, a young woman with a quiet smile, hair tucked neatly under her cap, moving from table to table serving trays of food to tired soldiers. To most, she was invisible, just part of the daily routine. But when the general walked in that afternoon, the ordinary became extraordinary. As she leaned forward to place a plate down, her sleeve slid up slightly, revealing a tattoo inked on her forearm, sharp, bold, and unmistakable. The general's eyes caught it, and in that instant, everything changed. His hands trembled, the tray he carried clattered to the floor, and the room froze in silence. Why? Because that tattoo wasn't just decoration, it was a symbol known only to a handful of warriors, a mark belonging to a classified unit that had once saved lives in a mission so secret it was buried from public record. But what was a quiet mess hall worker doing with it? Who was she really? Within hours, whispers ran through the base, soldiers questioned her past, and the general himself demanded answers. That single mark on her skin unraveled a story of sacrifice, betrayal, and hidden identity no one saw coming. It began on a quiet Wednesday afternoon in the military base mess hall, the kind of day when soldiers trudged in with heavy boots, trays clattering, conversations low, and the air thick with the smell of overcooked pasta and burnt coffee. Among the clamor, one young woman moved with quiet grace, her uniform simple, her role humble, serving meals, wiping down tables, making sure everyone had something warm to eat. Her name was Emily Hayes, 24 years old, barely noticeable in the sea of hardened warriors. She wasn't a soldier, she was civilian staff, contracted to work in the dining facility. And yet, though her job seemed ordinary, Emily carried a secret buried deeper than most could imagine. She had been trying to live quietly, to blend in, to let her past sleep undisturbed. But fate, as it always does, had other plans. That afternoon, the mess hall grew unusually still when Major General Robert Whitaker entered, a man whose very presence seemed to straighten the spines of everyone around him. Decorated, respected, feared by some, admired by many, he was the embodiment of authority. He took his tray, nodded briefly to the staff, and moved down the line. Emily was serving stew that day, ladling it carefully onto plates with practiced motion. When the general approached, she greeted him politely, her eyes lowered, her voice calm. But as she leaned slightly forward, her sleeve shifted up, exposing her forearm for just a moment. Ink glinted beneath the fluorescent lights, a tattoo, sharp lines forming a symbol not many would recognize, but those who knew, knew. The general froze. His eyes locked onto it. His hands, steady through decades of war, trembled. The tray he held slipped, dishes crashing to the floor, stew splattering across the boots of nearby soldiers. The hall went silent, all eyes snapping to him. Emily, startled, pulled her sleeve back down instantly, her face flushing. She bent to help with the mess, but the general raised a hand, his voice tight, almost hoarse. "Where did you get that tattoo?" he demanded, his tone carrying not just curiosity, but urgency, even fear. Murmurs rippled through the room. Soldiers glanced at one another, confused. To them it was just ink, but they could tell by the general's reaction that it was far more. Emily's lips parted, but for a moment no sound came out. She tried to speak casually, but her voice wavered. "It's just a tattoo, sir." The general's face darkened, his eyes narrowing. "That mark," he said, pointing with a trembling finger, "belongs to Task Force Sentinel. That unit doesn't just give out tattoos." Gasps filled the room. Even the younger recruits, who had never heard of Sentinel, felt the weight of the name. It was whispered among veterans, a unit that didn't officially exist, one said to have executed missions too dangerous, too classified, too costly for public knowledge. Only those who had served, and survived, bore that symbol. But Emily wasn't listed as a soldier, much less special operations. She was staff. A cook. A nobody, or so they thought. Suddenly, she stood at the center of every gaze, the mess hall transformed into a stage, and her secret life threatening to unravel. The general dismissed the stunned soldiers, ordering them to return to their meals, but no one could look away. "My office," he barked to Emily, his tone leaving no room for refusal. She hesitated, then nodded. As she followed him out, whispers ignited behind her like wildfire. By the time they reached his office, rumors had already begun to spread through the barracks. Inside, Whitaker shut the door firmly and turned on her. "Who are you?" he demanded. Emily remained calm, but her heart pounded. She had spent years hiding, trying to disappear into civilian life, yet here it was, the past clawing its way to the surface. "My name is Emily Hayes," she said softly, "and that's all you need to know." His fist slammed the desk, rattling pens. "Don't lie to me. That tattoo marks you as one of the shadow unit. They saved my life 15 years ago in Kandahar. I saw that symbol once, on a man who dragged me bleeding from the wreckage. Now explain why it's on you." Emily's eyes flickered with something between sorrow and pride. "Because that man," she whispered, "was my father." The revelation hit the general like a shockwave. Emily explained, slowly, reluctantly, that she had been the daughter of Staff Sergeant Daniel Hayes, a Sentinel operative who had indeed saved Whitaker's life during a mission that was later buried under layers of classification. But what few knew was that Daniel Hayes had not survived. He died in an ambush weeks later, leaving Emily, then just a child, alone. She carried his legacy inked on her skin, not as a claim of service, but as a memorial. The general sat heavily, speechless. But the story didn't end there. Emily revealed something deeper. Before his death, her father had entrusted her with documents, coded files that no one else had seen, files that told the truth about that mission and the betrayal that led to his death. She had kept them hidden, never daring to reveal them, until now. Whitaker's hands shook as he realized what this meant. If those files existed, it meant that not only had Sentinel been betrayed from within, but someone high in the chain of command had orchestrated it. Emily had lived in fear for years, hiding in plain sight, because if the wrong people knew what she held, her life would be in danger. The general promised her protection, but she wasn't convinced. "You don't understand," she said, her voice breaking. "The same people who betrayed him, they're still here. They still hold power." Whitaker swore that he would see justice done, that her father's name would be cleared. But as the days unfolded, strange things began to happen. Files went missing from his office. Soldiers whispered of classified movements. One night, Emily's quarters were broken into, her belongings ransacked, though nothing was stolen. The truth was clear, someone knew her secret had resurfaced, and they wanted it silenced. The climax came when Emily was called to testify at a closed-door inquiry. High-ranking officials demanded to know what she had, pressing her with threats and intimidation. She stood firm, her voice steady despite the fear. When asked why she kept her father's secret all those years, she answered simply, "Because heroes don't die when we remember them. They only die when we let their stories be erased." Her words struck deep, even silencing those who opposed her. And then, in a twist that shook the halls of power, Whitaker produced the files Emily had entrusted to him, revealing proof of the betrayal. Names were named. Careers ended. Justice, long delayed, began at last. Emily returned to the mess hall weeks later, her job the same, her uniform unchanged, but now every soldier who passed her treated her with respect. They no longer saw just a server with a tray. They saw the daughter of a hero, a woman who carried the weight of truth on her arm, etched forever in ink. She never sought glory. She never wanted recognition. But she had given her father's memory the justice it deserved, and in doing so, had become a quiet legend herself. So remember, sometimes the greatest heroes don't sit on the front lines. Sometimes, they're the ones who carry hidden scars, silent stories, and unshakable courage in places you'd never expect. If you love your mom and dad, hit that subscribe button and show some love to her. And tell me, from which part of the country are you watching this story?